have 10 minutes to try to explain what Waze is, and I can start by asking people in the audience are using Waze. So quite a lot of them. Israeli lower your hearing rate, so Americans, if you're using Waze, please raise your hand. I think if I would do that a year ago or a couple of years ago, then that would have been the case. Today, we have about 4 million users globally, and about 1 million of them are actually here in rural areas, and there are 7 million here in general in the US. Speak up! Just closer. Is that better now? Yes.
Upstairs.
Is that better now? Yeah. Okay, good. 11 million of them are in the US, and I will try to explain a little bit what's behind the scene of Waze or what's under the hood. So there are 40 million drivers using that, and in average we save them about 15% of their commute time. So trying to figure out how much is that, depending how long is your commute, but it's quite a lot of time that we save. Essentially, there are two types of complicated ways. There is one that you see, is the application, is the community, is what we have on your smartphone when you're driving, but there is also a data component that we collect the data from all the drivers and we generate the value or we generate the content for the rest of the drivers. And obviously, the more drivers that we have, the better data that we have, which brings more users. So essentially, the application itself, and many of you are familiar with that, is focusing on the daily commute, on the daily driving. It enables you turn-by-turn navigation in addition to pretty much everything else that it does. But what's behind the scene is even more interesting, and by the way, I'll show you just an example of going from LA airport to Hollywood 5:09 p.m., which is usually in the middle of the rush hours. It's a nightmare, essentially, period. And Google Routes say that it's going to be 1 hour and 10 minutes, and Waze say that it's going to be 23 minutes. And the reason is that Waze routes you on the highway until exactly where the traffic jam starts, and then it takes you off the highway. If you look at the picture, then you can see that the traffic, the highway was jammed. And as soon as we get off the highway, then the street level was clear. And essentially, it took us about 26 minutes to get from LA Airport to Sunset Boulevard in the middle of the rush hour. This is something that I had a few people telling me yesterday here that it's working here better than it was in Israel, and there are so many alternative routes that it takes them on a new route every day and it saves them time every day. So one of the great things about LA is that there are so many roads out there that there are much more alternatives. Mary Meeker, we had climate reference here on before. Mary Meeker say that Waze is growing faster than the entire GPS industry together, and this is actually the case. We're growing with approximately 3 million new users every month now. And essentially, what I want to show is a little bit of what's behind the scenes. So, the magic of Waze is we started from a blank page, and the first driver actually generated the first road. And so the way that it works is the first driver actually generates the first road, and when we have multiple drivers, we collect the GPS data from the handsets. And we are able to build some sort that looks like a roadmap. So I'll tell you that this little thing in the middle is a traffic circle. It's quite obvious now when you look at it. And if you look at the feature road, then it's obviously that it's a main road compared to other roads. And obviously we will notice on the system that there are 100 people going in a single direction and there is no one else going in the other direction. That will be one-way street and so forth. And we automatically generate the roadmap out of that. So when we started, we had a blank page. Now, in addition, or the fact that we can generate the roadmap automatically doesn't create for us the entire map, and we are actually adding the community, enabling them to do map editing and to provide additional information to the map. So we have today about 65,000 map editors globally, and many of them are signed up to become area manager or responsible for some of the maps. This is how we generate the map. So, and this is extremely important because we are using the crowd's voice or the wisdom of the crowd in order to build the content that observe the drivers. Now, obviously, if someone is driving slow, all of a sudden that we know that there is a traffic jam, and I want to show you how does it really work. I have here a video that they can play. So essentially what we're seeing in the video is a few places in Eastern Europe where the map was initially created. We launched the service at the beginning of 2010. You can see the dates there. I think this is Bratislava in Slovakia. It will zoom in a second so you can actually see the center area of the city center. Sometimes you will see red dots that is a reflection of an error on the map because lately or later fixed by someone else. By the way, this is on YouTube. This is the city center. And perhaps the most interesting thing about this video is that it was also generated by someone from the community. So the fact that we didn't even know about this video until someone called us and said that they are professional video editors and they can do a better job of editing the video that we produce. And we say, what video are you speaking about, right? And so essentially this is how maps were created. Going back into the presentation, this is an example, for example, for the map editing. Let me go back one slide for a second. The picture that you see there, the roller steamer, if you drive someplace that no one drove before, so there is no road on the map, your avatar will change into a roller steamer and you actually pave the road behind you. And this is a very rewarding experience for those that experience that. I can tell you that at the early days, every time that I was driving with the initial version of Waze, and I would look at the map and there is a street over there that is not on the map. And obviously I'm making the right turn in order to pave that road. And not only that, I was driving back and forth and making all the available turns in order to map the board, right? And then my wife started to tell me that every time that I want to go and pave roads, I should drop her at home first. She's not fond of paving roads, but I actually like that. Map editing tool. This is an example, I think, from Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia. Essentially, we provide an editing tool for enthusiastic amateurs. Not a professional GIS, enthusiastic amateurs. And we can edit multiple attributes of the roads. And we simply empower the community to do that. And so you can edit the road, you can edit the attributes of the road, you can even move the road around and so forth. Traffic in LA, I mentioned that. There are probably 1.5 million users in LA today, so we cover pretty much each and every traffic jam there. Let me play that video, which is capturing 24 hours of traffic in LA from Sunday afternoon into Sunday night into Monday morning rush hour. So what you're seeing is you can see the hours. The dots are actively reported by the drivers, so traffic jams or police or road accidents and so forth. And the color coding of yellow and orange and red are automatically generated by the system. For those of you that don't know, LA actually goes to sleep at night. Opposed to maybe Tel Aviv that never goes to sleep. There is pretty much nothing there on the roadways in the middle of the night in Los Angeles. But as soon as we are moving into 4 or 5 a.m., we are starting to see the professional drivers that for them it's a replacement for the CD radio. And they are chatting with each other and saying good morning and so forth. And around 6, 7 a.m. we will start to see the rush hours of LA. Anyone here from LA? You can probably identify the traffic jams that So yeah, pretty much traffic in LA, it's interesting. In every place that I go, people are telling me that their traffic jams are the most severe there are. And I'm looking at the Waze system and I can measure traffic jams everywhere. And I'm telling you, no, you're totally wrong, right? Try Jakarta, for example, try Lagos, try Sao Paulo, try Bogota, try different major metropolitan areas in other places that they can, barely move there. And sometimes I figure out that I can probably walk faster. So one of the things that we are doing recently is actually incorporating car industry, and the way that we do that is actually through the mirroring approach. I like another video here that is actually showing how the
just simply your iPhone app with the screen mirroring capability.
application is running on the
And
iPhone.
screen mirror. Yeah, and the touch you have here.
Large display on the iPhone. This is, by the way, Honda today, I think, Pioneer X-Ray is something that you can do with the same thing in McLaren on a different entertainment system. So going back to the presentation. So I would like to summarize, 12 years ago, there was no Wikipedia. Now, today there is no Mechanica. If you take that into the mapping board, that means that in 12 years there will be no more Nokia and TomTom. We are already 6 years down the road, so they probably have a little bit less than that. There are only 4 map makers in the world. There are Nokia, TomTom, which are traditional map makers. There is Google and Waze, which are the newer one. And essentially, Google and Waze are actually the one that is set to lead the industry of map making and actually owning the map making. And in the last statement is that we save you about 15% of your commute time. So obviously, the more you use Waze, the more that we save you. And in return, we actually, as drivers, we are saving more to the community and to the rest of the